Salutations, people! Welcome to Page 3 Killers, Murders That Went Unnoticed, a podcast where we dive into the murder cases that went unnoticed by our nation's newspapers. Hi, guys, and welcome back to Page 3 Killers, Murders That Went Unnoticed. And in case you've noticed, John isn't here to do the opening, but I have a guest star for this special episode. Take it away.
Hey guys, it's Stacey here. I'm so excited to be back.
And we have a doozy of a case.
I have no idea what this case is about, and I'm excited to find out.
So, we are talking about the haunting of the Andrews family.
What is so criminal about a haunting? Did the ghost, not pay rent or something? I can understand if a ghost is, slamming a door, and you're just like, yo, what bills you be paying? Slamming doors like that.
Trust me, it's pretty criminal.
It is.
And that it may be a ghost. Just wait.
I think it's a ghost. I'm jumping for it. It's a ghost.
You're jumping for it?
I'm jumping for it. It's a ghost.
You've already leapt off the cliff.
Yeah, I'm over the cliff. I've hit the water. It's a ghost.
Well,
I think they're nuts.
Before we get into talking about whether they're crazy or not, let's talk about our news stories for 1987, which is...
Shay, what was going on in 1987?
Only the greatest thing to ever happen to the world. We were conceived.
Ew. Thanks for that reminder.
But, so, for 1987, it was a relatively quiet year. So, to start it off, on January 4th, you had a train crash. It's the 1987 Maryland train collision. And that is when an Amtrak train en route to Washington, D.C. from Boston collides with another train engine in Maryland, killing 16 people. The next thing is Aretha Franklin becomes the first female woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So super big.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was just saying you need to respect me more.
I need to respect you more? I'm sorry.
No, this show's yours. You go ahead. Disrespect me all you want.
I will. So on January 22nd, the Pennsylvania treasurer, Bud Dwyer, shoots and kills himself with a revolver during a televised press conference after being found guilty on charges of bribery, fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. I know. Nothing says I'm guilty of something like shooting yourself.
Yeah, nothing does.
After being found guilty of a crime. Now, the next thing actually happens on March 20th, which is our birthday.
Year before our birth. Yeah.
AZT is approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration for the treatment of HIV and AIDS. Following that, you have the USS Stark is hit by 2 Iraqi-owned air-to-surface missiles and kills 37 sailors. And then we have, we rounded out with a tsunami that hits the Gulf of Alaska in November.
Yeah, that, I don't know, how big would that have actually been? How many people live in Alaska that would say, oh man, that's tsunami?
You know what? I feel like it probably hit, a coastal area that not a lot of people live on, you know?
Yeah, well, I would assume that there more people live in coastal areas in Alaska. I don't know. I've never been to Alaska, so if anybody knows, give us a shout out and tell us what it's like living in Alaska.
Yeah. I mean, they got enough TV shows to tell you what it's like living in Alaska.
Alaskan State Troopers.
Oh, those fine troopers from Alaska.
I think you can understand why we're doing a girls-only episode.
Yeah, I think they'll find this much more intriguing when we talk about the bicep of Alaska State Troopers. Yes. Those biceps. Whew.
Yeah, I mean, they make what Marines do look easy. I don't know about you, but I don't want to take on a moose. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Do they just, I'm wondering if, for that show, they just picked the good-looking
I think that's what they do. They just
pick the
who
good
would
looking
be the eye
ones?
candy, and what can we make them do? I seriously, I wonder if some of that stuff is scripted out, because some of that stuff is just insane.
Like some of it, but you know what? The problem is, like, sometimes those crazy things actually do freaking happen.
They do, like this case.
Exactly, like this case. Oh. Now let's move into our seedy side, because it wouldn't be a Pastry Killers episode without some shady shit.
Yeah, the shadier the better. And I'm so excited about this next one. Go ahead.
All right, so we have a second Unabomb bomb explodes in Salt Lake City computer store, injuring the owner.
So my whole thing is every episode we seem to be talking about Ted Kaczynski. Good old Ted is brought up so much. Like, I swear, like, you know they have serial killer bobbleheads? Mm-hmm. I'm about to just buy you a Ted Kaczynski bobblehead just for the desk so he could be your friend.
Good old Teddy K. That lunatic. Oh man, I don't think he would survive. Like, he would not be a very happy person in this age of technology.
Oh yeah, no, because that's what he was rebelling against, was the idea of like all this, like everyone being like, so connected.
The idea of podcasts would have just blown his mind.
Although he might have been okay if he could get his like, you know, his word out there, like, you know.
Yeah, he should have just waited, and then he could have emailed people.
He lived in, like, a shanty hut in the middle of nowhere. Where are you talking about
That's
email?
True.
He probably didn't even have electricity.
Yeah, probably not. It was probably candlelight. But did you hear his cabin that was at a museum? It went missing.
How does a whole building go missing?
I have no idea. Like, I think they sold it to somebody, and then it just got lost who purchased it or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, so
somebody probably has it and doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Someone could be living in it in the middle of nowhere. And it might be, like, haunted. Like, you know, and, like, it creates, like, maybe, like, a second Ted Kaczynski.
Oh, my God. Like, somebody just goes, like, crazy and like, just, like becomes...
Like Amityville Horror. Like, oh, you know, God. Like the husband in the movie.
Oh, that is
just
terrible.
Kind of goes nuts.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get in. We have 2 more seedy side stories to talk about. So the next one is the Greater Manchester Police. Then this is in England. Recover the body of 16-year-old Pauline Reed from Saddleworth Moor after her killers, Anne Brady and Myra Hindy, help them in their search. Almost exactly 24 years since they committed the murder.
Oh my gosh.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, if anybody knows anything about Ian Brady and Myra Hindy, they're just absolutely atrocious people. I mean, she helped him catch and torture and rape and murder a couple of girls from the towns that they lived in.
And that's just sick. Like, for any woman to, like, do that to help her man, that's disgusting.
Yeah, but I guess that's true love.
No, that's not true love. That's
they're definitely
they're psychos. They're crazy. They think they love each other, but they're incapable of love.
Yes. Now the next one is the Hungerford Massacre, and this takes place also in England. 16 people die in the first British mass shooting carried out by Michael Ryan. So this was like their first ever big massacre, mass shooting in recent times. Like, so this would have been on par with our Columbine.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the first time that the media really latched on
except
to
that England
a shooting.
Actually did something about it.
Yeah. So we're not going to debate the politics of gun laws, because we have 2 totally different views. Mm-hmm. On gun laws, so we don't want to argue about it.
Yeah, no.
Twin sisters should never argue about politics, religion, and cosmetics.
Yeah, and whether or not their husbands are good looking.
I'm just saying.
It's a girl.
Don't get us started.
Don't start. Well, don't start. Won't be none.
Don't start no shit. It won't be no shit. Yep. As you guys can tell, we're going to get into it.
I want to know, like all of everyone else, I want to know, is this a haunting or is this something more?
let's get talking about it. All right. This whole thing really starts in 1986. But we picked 1987 because that's when the whole thing concludes. All right. So we have the Andrews family, which is Father Brian Andrews and his two daughters, Annie, who's 15, and Jessica, who is 8. Annie and Jessica's mother had just passed away from cancer, and they were grieving, as they would. And their father, he was now the sole breadwinner for the family, so he really had to work more to pay the bills. And they lived in this gorgeous old house in Townsend, Massachusetts. And a real beautiful house, really nice neighborhood, really nice. It was an old Victorian type of house, sort of
setting it up for ghosts.
Oh my God, yes. So it's a really old building, and the girls, they're grieving the loss of their mother. Now, Annie, the oldest, was really missing her mom and wished she could talk to her just one more time. You can kind of see where that's going. But before I get into that part, Annie is old enough to be dating, and, she's looking for a boyfriend. So one day the phone rings and Annie answers it, and it's a neighborhood boy that lives, near them. His name is Danny LaPlante, and he told her that he begged a mutual friend for her number, and that this friend gave him her number. Really, LaPlante obtained the phone number and address he thought belonged to one of his previous burglary victims. That's how he obtained it, was like he stole it from somebody. So, but he thought she was really pretty and he wanted to take her out on a date. So she said no at first, but, he kept calling and talking to her. And as one would do.
Like, yeah. No. Automatically, if I would probably be listening to my gut and I would sense that this is some shady shit. Like, how did you get my number? And then I would ask, like, who did you get the number from? And then I would check who he got the number from and been like, yo, did you get, like, Nicole, did you give this guy my number? And then you would be like, no, but my house got robbed.
Yeah,
I'd be like, oh, well, maybe this psycho's calling me.
Yeah, so
I don't trust people, but that's like, 2020.
I mean, I feel like we're more suspicious now than we ever were, but that's because the majority of us were raised on City Confidential, Law and Order, and Murder, She Wrote,
yeah.
Murder Files, FBI Files.
Yeah.
We were raised on these television shows.
I mean, they have a whole investigation discovery. It's a whole channel devoted to this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
My husband has, like, the hardest time with me, like, loving crime and true crime stuff, because he's like, you're just gonna scare yourself, and I scare him more, because he's up at night, like, he walks around the house, like, checking all the doors and windows, and I'm like, dude, we locked everything up, we never open up the windows or the blinds. I'm like,
yeah. And I'm the kind of person that'll sit there and give commentary like, you dumb motherfucker, why did you just do that? Why did you just do that? You know you're going to get caught. You didn't bury them 6 feet down. You only dug a 2-foot grave. What the hell is wrong with you?
I thought you would be talking about the victims going outside the house. I would have been like, girl, don't go out there. Lock the door. Keep the blinds down. Keep the lights off. Someone knocks on the door, you grab, hide.
Listen, the only one of those shows that has ever gotten to me on such a level that it scared me was it was a stalker one, and he didn't even hurt her. Yeah. It was just, he terrorized her. Like, by standing outside her windows.
Yeah. And wasn't he the one that was, like, licking the windows? Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, that would scare me the most.
I'm just like, how did they not have his DNA?
It's on a window.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's get back to this, okay? So, he schmoozes her a little bit and, puts a little bounce, puts down a little skill. And, a little honey to attract the honeys. Kind of thing. So he talks her into an ice cream date. Look how cute is that?
Oh.
An ice cream date.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's not as, like, you know, creeper as I thought.
And
although, like, you know, the fact that the number he got it from a burglary, but he was just like, oh, this honey is so hot, I gotta take her out for ice cream.
Yeah. So, you know, it sounds all innocent and sweet. And Annie thought the same thing, like, oh, that's so sweet. And, you know, because she's missing her mom, you know, she thought maybe a boyfriend would fill that void. You know, somebody that she could care about, you know, hang out with, you know, have somebody to talk to. So she agreed and they made a visit to this ice cream parlor together. But, like, very shortly into the date, you know, Annie is very disappointed with the, you know, everything. She
probably, like, well, I would think that, like,
he gives off the creep vibes. He gives off that creep vibes. Like, you know, that guy that just walks up to you in the like on the street and feels like the need to, like, say, hey, sexy, you looking good. And just, like, trying to, like, touch you and stuff like that. That's this kind of guy.
Okay. I mean, there's been guys that didn't even touch me that I kind of looked at and was like, hi, yeah, nice to meet you, and bye.
Yeah. And so he gave her the creeps. And he also severely misrepresented himself when he was talking to her about himself. Now, Danny also started to fixate on the recent death of her mother due to cancer and took a great interest in hearing about her death.
That's morbid.
It is. It's very morbid. So, you know, he's getting the creep going, you know, he's just not
and that's probably
social.
Something she doesn't even want to talk about. Like,
yeah.
And from what it sounds like, maybe he was, like, really going deep in, like, wanting to know, like, how her last breath was. And that's just nasty and creepy.
I know. Ugh. So, these factors lead Annie to decline a second date.
As any sane woman would do.
Yeah, any woman would look at that and just be like, oh, fuck no. I'm going to get me out of this. Just dodge that bullet.
Yeah, like friend zone. Although this would probably be like
didn't want to even
friend zone adjacent. Like, you don't even want to be close to that.
Yeah, exactly. So the relationship dies right there, and Annie thinks that's the end of it. Okay? Now, maybe a week or two later, Annie and Jessica get a Ouija board and candles and perform a little seance to talk to their mother.
And you want me to believe that this isn't ghosts?
I'm just saying.
You're
I mean,
fighting it.
And I mean, you look at the Ouija board. So you have to be 21 to drink, 18 to smoke,
but 8 years old to summon the devil.
Exactly. Like what the hell? I can just.
Yeah, not for nothing. Like, anyone can have their own idea of what they believe a Ouija board is. I just feel that it's opening up a gateway. Yeah. And, and it's very hard to close those gateways. So it's very dangerous to do that.
Exactly. And
like
I know a lot of spiritualists that would not recommend it at all. And just be like, don't fuck with something that you don't know anything about. Yeah. And if you're going to do it somewhere not your home.
Well, sometimes it even just follows you because dark forces can latch onto you. So it's just better and safer not to do any of it.
Yeah, just don't
smudge,
don't do it.
Smudge and cleanse a room, but don't open up the Ouija board.
Yeah. So they do all of the general stuff. They open the gateway to the spirit realm. They're playing with the board. They say goodbye and how much they miss her. They just say all the things they wanted to say to her. Before she died. But to no one's surprise, nothing really happened. They didn't hear anything so they close out the Ouija board. They say goodbye to it and they close that door, supposedly, close that door. But later that night, when Annie is laying in bed, she starts hearing knocking and tapping sounds on her walls. Ooh. Yeah. And when she searches the house, everything seems normal. and the thumps persist for weeks. Oh, hi, babies. Pandora's coming in to say hi. She knew we're talking something spooky. So spooky bitch is here.
I mean, she's a black cat, so she knows when we're talking about scary stuff.
Exactly. Now, so these thumps and sounds persist for some time. And Annie and Jessica wonder if the seance really did work and it was their mother contacting them from beyond. From the beyond?
Like any crazy person.
Exactly. I mean, hey.
Like, rational people think that, oh yeah, the ghosts are the ones contacting
Like,
you.
listen, I don't think, like, a person's spirit would reasonably come back and, like, to terrorize you.
Yeah, I think more, it's something more evil would do that.
Exactly. Like, I don't feel like... Well, I think when it started, it might have felt like to them that it was just...
Mom checking in on them, and it would have given them, like, you know,
a little bit of
reassurance
reassurance. Yeah. So, but we will see that everything takes a...
much darker turn.
Yes. A much more terrorizing turn. Okay? Now, as the months progress, they keep hearing this tapping, and it continues intermittently. So it happens every once in a while. Usually, the things that happen when their father is not home. So it's usually when they are by themselves.
Could this be like a situation of like mass hysteria?
Possibly.
Like they're feeding off, like their fears or their emotions are feeding off of each other.
Yeah.
And it's
Possibly.
when they're by themselves without like something, because the one was 15 years old and the other one's 8. I mean that's pretty young. So maybe like, you know.
True. And it seems to be Annie who was the first one to start hearing all the tapping.
And Annie's the oldest, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, like after a couple of months of this tapping, it starts to become more regular. And the girls start finding personal items and furniture moved around the house.
I didn't know ghosts like to redecorate.
Yeah. So whatever was happening was becoming more sinister than their mother's presence. So they started to feel like there was something watching them. You know, it wasn't what they thought it was. They think that they might have like invited a demon into their home. So the girls like freak out, you know, as they should. And one day after their father left for work, the strange sounds started filtering from the basement. They started hearing weird sounds like creaking steps and stuff like that, and noises like bangs down in the basement. So together the girls decide that they're going to go down to the basement. They're going to check it out. You know, as any cute blonde white woman would do in a horror movie.
Yeah. No. Okay, rule number 1, I have a basement. It is a finished basement. There is no way anyone's getting down into my basement. But I do not like going down there. I don't like walking to the door and staring down when the light's not on in there. I clench up when I go to turn the light switch on, because my biggest fear is I'm going to see someone standing down at the bottom of the stairs. And I'm praying that I have enough time to shut the door and stop whatever is down there from coming upstairs. There's nothing there. There's nothing in my house. I know this. I know I can take care of myself, but that's my biggest fear. And guess what? These girls are more badass than I am as a 32-year-old.
Yeah, because they actually go down the stairs. So they go down these stairs, and when they reach the concrete floor of the basement, they find words, "Find me." The girls freak out, start screaming. They run from the house, and they run to a neighbor's house and call their dad, and they just are hysterical. Now, Brian Andrews, you know, being a good father, comes home right away to, you know, to these hysterical girls. And, you know, so he gets home and he sees this message written on the wall, and he just thinks it's a stupid cryptic message and it's written in ketchup. So he thinks his daughters are, are hysteria, like it's hysteria over their over the
troublemaking because their mom has passed away, and
exactly
that they might be acting out.
Yeah, that they're acting out to get attention. And it's how they're coping with the loss of their mother. That's what he thinks. He thinks that they just need a therapist. So he puts them in therapy, and it quiets down for a little bit. And so he really felt that it was nothing more than a cry for attention, because they stopped telling him about noises and stuff like that. So, like I said, for the next few days, things at the Andrews home returns to a semi-normal, no more noises or misplaced furniture. A few nights later, another message appears on the wall. Again, the girls ran from the house in an attempt to escape whatever was in the house. And the girls run to a neighbor who calls their father again. Now this time, when Brian Andrews sees his daughter's terror, he thinks something might be going on. Because he's like, now why? Now, like, this terror is so much worse than it was the last time. This is, like, a pure terror. Like, you could just see the whites of their eyes. Like, how scared they were. Like,
so. I would assume that any parent would know when their child is just scared versus terrified. Yeah. And, like, I'm liking the fact that he cared enough to, like, maybe start thinking that maybe something is going on rather than just, they're nuts.
Now, I'm about to get into the big part of why he starts to realize that there's something more sinister going on than just the apparent haunting of
eye holes and paintings or something.
We're about to get there. Okay. So, Brian Andrews re-enters the house with his daughters and neighbor in tow. They, he's planning on finding just another staged work of art from his daughters. But when they were in the foyer, they could hear sounds coming from upstairs. And all of the TVs are on. To, like, snow. And they're just shh. You
so
just
white
have
noise.
That noise.
So it's the white noise.
So you just have that white noise going on. And all of the TVs are all turned up max volume. Okay?
Okay, I'm just going to say it again. What bills is this ghost paying that they think that they could have the TVs turned on all the way up?
Exactly. So he's just like, well, did you guys leave the TVs on when you left? And they're like, no, we didn't leave anything on. We weren't even watching TV. So they start going room to room. They move up to the second floor and the noises are even louder. Now he sees light seeping from underneath his daughter's bedroom door. And he sees shadows playing from somewhere inside the room. Brian pushes open the door and he finds a figure wearing a dress with long hair and his wife's clothing. This figure turns around and it is Danny LaPlante wearing a wig and Brian Andrews' deceased wife's clothing, holding a hatchet.
What the heck?
Now, I'm pretty sure there was a pause, a moment where they all just stared at each other. And then they were like, oh, fuck.
I don't even know if I would be scared or if I would be pissing myself laughing at this dude. But then again, he does have a hatchet. But hey, Dad's there.
Like, yeah. Well, so Danny LaPlante begins to chase them through the house with the hatchet. He even at one point captured Brian, Annie, and Jessica and tied them up. He told them to start praying because they were going to die. Now, one of the girls broke free of her ties and helped her sister and father escape through a bedroom window. They got out, ran to a neighbor's house, and called the police. Now, the police arrive on scene, and this is not the first time that they've been called to this residence for some hinky shit, because the first time that the girls, that happened, they did call the police out. I forgot to mention that. They called the police out, and the police walked through the house, and they were like, okay, there's no ghost here, okay? There's no ghosts. Like, there's nobody here, you're fine. Now, the police arrive this time, and they're a little skeptical at what they find, and it leaves them scratching their heads. Now, there's messages written on the walls and coins glued to the ceiling, but they do not find a Danny LaPlante anywhere. But still, the Andrews family was understandably uncomfortable with the idea of returning home, and they stayed away for nearly 2 weeks. When they gathered the courage to go back, they saw Danny LaPlante standing in their living room waiting for them to come back. So they call the police again, and the police come out and they storm the Andrews home. They search the place from top to bottom. And in the basement, an officer finds something odd. Now, the washing machine is a little crooked. So he thinks, oh, that's a little weird. And he walks over to it and he checks it and he sees there's something behind there. Or the lack of something behind there, like a wall. Now, when he pulled the washer the rest of the way out, to his shock, he finds a hole in the plaster that led to a space between the inside and the outside walls.
Oh my God.
Where Danny LaPlante was found crouched down inside his hiding place. And when told to come out, he refused. He did not come out from inside the wall. So eventually, the other officers are able to coax him out and they arrest him. Now, the officers, of course, the detective and the officers go in and they're looking at this little space behind the wall and they find a sleeping bag, beer, food wrappers, and clear evidence that he's been living there for months.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. There is a Whitechapel. There's a show called Whitechapel. It's a British TV show, and they had a guy who was living in people's houses right before he killed them.
Yeah, that's probably where they got the idea for it.
It probably is, and this is like seriously creepy. Like, just think, like the food they probably have is probably their food, like their leftovers, like, you know. So it's like living with a hungry ghost.
Yeah. So when the whole story comes to light, it's discovered that he broke into the Andrews home the first day that he met with Annie, and she declined his second date. So he broke into there, and he had watched them perform the seance nearly a year earlier.
What the heck?
Yeah. And at the moment that he had seen the girls' vulnerability, he decided to frighten them and start scaring them. Now, Danny LaPlante, unfortunately, at this time, is a minor. And since no physical harm was done, he was going to just spend a few months in detention in a youth detention facility. So LaPlante was placed in a juvenile facility where he stayed until October of 1987. It was decided that he would be tried as an adult, and because he is considered now an adult, that means that he's allowed to post bail, which his mother pays.
Of course.
Now, I just want to make this clear that I saw a documentary on this, and the mother did not seem like the most reputable person, or that she even cared that much about her children. I'm not sure how much of that was just dramatization, or if that was like a real thing.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, and when eventually we do have kids, Nicole, I want you to hold me to this. If my child does this to anybody, if they do anything that is a crime, you remind me, I'm not bailing them out.
Oh no, I'm gonna leave my fucking kid there.
Yeah, no. You deserve the punishment. I don't care. Like, if you need me, like, you murder somebody and you need me to be there in the courtroom, that ain't gonna happen. Like, because I will go, but I will sit with the other family and be like, yeah, no. I love you, you're my child, but guess what?
It's like, listen, you're gonna take a fucking plea bargain.
Yeah, don't put your family through that, and
you're not gonna put them through it. You're not putting me through it.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Like, but I think it's, when the shoe's on the other foot, you don't really know how you're gonna react.
Yeah,
but
I want you to hold me to it.
I'll try my best. Now, so he gets bail. His mother bailed him out of jail, and he was given a court date in for December of 1987. Now, Brian Andrews at this time is preparing to move his family out of state when he gets the call that Danny LaPlante has made bail. So he says that he was, terrified for his family, of course, and that's understandable because he's like, well, is this guy going to come after us? And he's actually told, the newspapers and everything, that he didn't tell his daughters right away that Danny had made bail. He didn't want them to be terrified. They were, a week to 2 weeks out. They were going to be moving in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he was like, he didn't want to scare them, but I'm not going to say that he didn't sit outside of his house with a gun, ready for Danny to come back.
Well, I mean, but if Danny's cutting holes in his walls to get in, it's like, what's the use in sitting out front? He's probably coming around the back.
Yeah, exactly. Or he's coming in when you're not there.
Yeah. What I would do is I would be in my kid's bedroom, sitting on the floor, underneath the bed, and then he comes walking in, I'll grab him by the ankles, scare that motherfucker.
Then he'd come out from under the bed.
Yeah.
All right, so in November, while on bail, Danny LaPlante returns to some of his bad habits. Burglary, and he steals 2 guns from a neighbor of his mother's.
As criminals do.
As most criminals do. Like I said, if a criminal wants a gun, he's going to find a way to get one. That's just how it is. Now, on December 1st, just a few weeks shy of his court date, Danny LaPlante entered the Townsend, Massachusetts home of Priscilla Gustafson, a nursery school teacher. She's currently pregnant. She's about 4 to 6 months pregnant at this time, and she has two children. Now, the home sat on the property behind his mother's home, and there was a dense forest that separated their backyards. So their 2 houses, their backyards abutted each other, and it was separated by this really dense forest area. So that's where he would come out his mom's house and go through the backyard and then go through the woods, and he would come out to this house on the other side. Now, when Priscilla... So he broke in to Priscilla's home when she went out to go pick up her kids from school. He broke in and waited for her to come home. Now, when Priscilla's husband got home that night from work, he did not find what he expected to walk into. He found a crime scene. He found his pregnant wife dead in their bed, face down, with their pillows covered in blood. LaPlante had raped her and shot her multiple times at point-blank range, and LaPlante had drowned both of their children, 7-year-old Abigail and 5-year-old William, in separate bathrooms in the house. Which is just horrible. Like, I just can't imagine being that father, just walking into that. And he's going to be the first suspect.
Yeah.
Like, just...
Yeah, because automatically they're going to think, you know, that it's going to be the husband. But that's got to be even worse, because you guys are planning, like, you have another baby on the way, and then not only is your wife dead, but now your 2 kids. I mean, he lost everybody.
Yeah. And so when the cops get there, you know, one of the officers sort of remembers Danny. Okay? He was one of the officers that arrested him at the Andrews home.
And he's probably like, oh, that crazy dude lives, like, right over there.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I know exactly where he lives. He's staying with his mom, and it's on the other side of the woods. He's like, you know, the way that this person made entry, the way that, you know, some items that were found in the house, he's like, this looks like Danny. This looks like this kid. So they go over and his mom to his mom's house, and he's not there. He's supposed to be there because he's supposed to not leave her home. He's not supposed to be leaving her home. He's like under house arrest, basically. But they didn't put monitors on kids like that.
Because they expect parents to be parents at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And she basically does well, I'm not his keeper. I'm just his mom. Bitch, you his keeper. You're his mom. That's the whole point.
Yeah, the whole point of you bailing him out is that he's supposed to be respectful enough to make sure you get your money back.
Exactly. So they realize that, you know, Danny, he is now on the run. So a few towns over from Townsend, LaPlante kidnaps a woman in her car, but she is able to escape. You know, she jumps out of the car, and, you know, so LaPlante runs off and is discovered a few days later, about 2 days later, hiding in a dumpster.
Well, he is human garbage. Come on.
Yes.
He just murdered 3 people.
Yes. And the police take him in, they and inspect his clothing. They found a hair on his sock that matched Abigail, and that's Priscilla and Priscilla's daughter, Abigail. It was still unclear, though, whether the killings resulted from a robbery gone wrong or something much worse. A year later, LaPlante was sentenced to 3 life sentences for those murders. He basically went away for the rest of his life.
Oh, wow.
He got 3 life sentences.
Good.
Served consecutively.
Oh.
So you're not eligible for parole at that point. Because you have to serve so many years from each one. So say you get a life sentence. That could be 50 to 100 years per. So in a life sentence, after so many years, you are eligible for parole.
Yeah.
Even though it's a life sentence.
Yeah. Well, you have the right to, like, plead your case.
Yeah.
For why you should be paroled.
Exactly. And they can make the final determination. But when it's consecutive, so what they'll do is they'll stack it. And so you'll have to serve the first 50 years on one conviction, and then you would have to serve the 50 years on the next one.
Yeah.
And then the one after that. So it's 150 years there. You're never going to get out of prison.
Yeah.
Now, in his earlier life, LaPlante lived with his mother and his stepfather. He grew up in Townsend, and LaPlante was sexually and psychologically abused by many of the adults in his life. And LaPlante's father was responsible for much of that abuse. Now, it's no surprise that he struggled in school. He was, at an early age, he was diagnosed with dyslexia, and his classmates called him creepy and weird. As a teenager, he was referred to a psychiatrist because of his abnormal behavior. He had a very huge lack of hygiene and did not keep his appearance, keep up appearances. You know, he just wasn't into getting haircut regularly, taking showers, making sure his clothes were clean, like most people would. You know, he was not. He was definitely very psychologically had issues, like major issues. So he had a very, very fucked up childhood. Now, on March 22nd of 2017, he had a resentencing hearing. And it was held at a Middlesex Superior Court in Massachusetts. LaPlante was asking for a reduction in his sentence. Now, at the hearing, it was mentioned that during his first appeal, previous court rulings were cited saying that juveniles convicted of murder should be given a meaningful opportunity to re-engage with society. There was also a new law allowing juveniles convicted of murder with extreme cruelty and atrocities to ask for parole after they had been behind bars for the minimum of 30 years. The judge, however, gave LaPlante the maximum penalty of 45 years after a forensic psychiatrist evaluated him and found that he was not remotely remorseful for his crimes. He just blamed everybody else. Now, as a teenager, LaPlante spent his evenings breaking into homes and taking the owner's possessions, and he would sometimes move items around the victims' homes to show that someone had been there without making it blatantly obvious.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not remotely sad that the judge threw the book at him.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think he should ever go up for parole. I mean, there has to be something said that, you know, sometimes children are not capable of thinking beyond beyond their emotions. Like, their emotions do tend to take control of them. But the same thing happens to adults. But we're made accountable. And unfortunately, he didn't just kill somebody. He sexually assaulted someone.
Yeah.
And then killed them. So, regardless of whether or not it had, anything to do with robbery, which I highly doubt it was.
Yeah.
Because most times when there is a sexual aspect to it, it's about control. It's not about, proper, items around the house. That robbery is the second thought to something like that.
Yeah, but I think for him, part of the entire experience of burglarizing somebody was to not leave a trace of his actual presence there, but to move things around just enough so that people thought it was weird, but they wouldn't notice that that somebody had been in their home, which is what he did to the Andrews family.
Yeah.
For a year. For a whole year, he did this to them. Knocked on their walls, inside their walls, knocked on their walls.
Was he, climbing through the wall? I'm assuming he was climbing through the walls, which is insane.
It is.
It's that is so much more disturbing. Just think, you're asleep in your bed. He could have been in there watching the girls.
Standing over you.
Standing over them. He could have been standing over the dad. He could have been, walking through the kitchen, drinking your beer.
See, the thing
watching
was...
the TV, and you're asleep the whole time.
Yeah, see, the thing was, he would only do things when the father was out of the house. Mm-hmm. He didn't do anything when there was somebody that could physically challenge him. Yeah. He could take two girls. A 15-year-old girl and an 8-year-old girl. He could fight that. He could take control of that situation. Because he was bigger, he was stronger, so he could handle that. But a full-grown man, no.
I'm just wondering where his mind was going when he was standing in their room with a fucking hatchet, dressed in their mom's clothes. I just don't understand what, was this guy on drugs or something? Because, like,
he
to
was
me,
just
that
crazy.
Well, I mean, yeah, just crazy. Like, but to me, that's just bizarre and disturbing.
Yeah. You know what? I'm so torn with this case because it's clear that his family did not care to get him the help that he needed. And that there was some huge psychological issues. Like, he was definitely suffering from a psychosis.
And if people had given him the help they needed, he might not have ever done any of this.
Exactly. This could have been prevented if, he just didn't have shitty parents.
Yeah. I mean, like, he was sexually and psychologically abused, which is, like...
does enough damage, Yeah. And it starts to normalize that activity. To, especially somebody at a young age like that. They start to think that that is a normal behavior.
Yeah, like, normal people do this, which is even worse because then his mom bails him out of juvie. Like, in juvie, at least he would have gotten some kind of, like, structure. Yeah. Like, granted, like, it's already gone so far, but, I mean, he didn't murder anybody yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, if he had gone and gotten the help they needed, it probably could have prevented murders from happening.
Yeah. I feel like...
I'm just surprised he didn't go back to the other family.
Yeah. That was, like, my whole concern. Like, and at the time that he's on the run, like, they know that he's on the run. That he's murdered 3 people. I'm sure that the cops stationed somebody outside of the Andrews home to, like, watch over them, and just watch for him. Because I'm pretty sure he would have gone back. Just because that's what crazy people do. They obsess.
Yeah. Well, it was already shown obsessive behavior because, one, how often are you going to go and terrorize people? I mean, he did this for a year. That already tells you that he fixated on her, the one daughter. Like, and her turning him down was even more of the catalyst because that just was like, that might have been like an even bigger trigger for him.
I don't think it was necessarily he obsessed over her. I think he was obsessed by the thought of her mother, the death, being that close to a death. I think that's what turned him on, and I think that's what he found so appealing about Annie.
Well, and also it could be the fact that one of the things that he did was, like, he would move stuff, he would do things, and I think this is why, like, he was going into houses and stuff and moving things. He wasn't going just to burglarize.
Yeah.
He was going so that he could do strange things in their homes and then have them think that maybe something was happening. So he's getting off on the fact that he was terrorizing them by doing things that would make them think that they're crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he could feed off of that. And not only that, but he's, like, living in their house with them.
Yeah.
So he's around it all day, every day. Like, I mean, ugh.
Yeah. And I saw this case, like, if you guys get a chance, you need to check this show out. It is on ID Discovery. Not pushing ID Discovery, okay? But hey, ID Discovery, if you do want to, like, pay us some money to talk you up, I'll totally do it. So I saw this case, and this episode was so amazing. Like, every once in a while I'll come across one on ID that is just super amazing. So the name of the show is Your Worst Nightmare. And that's the name of the series. And this episode was in season 2. It's episode 1 of season 2. And it's called Bump in the Night. And that is the episode that features Danny LaPlante. Oh, wow. It was amazing. Just how they shot it. And when it first opened up, you thought it was going to be like, that old TV show, The Haunting. You thought it was going to be like that, how they set it up.
Man says I don't have to listen to you anymore. Man says I don't have... What does he say?
Because man said I could.
Because man said I could. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Get that raccoon.
Yeah. So my sister's a huge fan of 13 O'Clock, and so am I. We listen religiously to that, to Jenny and Tom, and that is, like, my sister's favorite thing to quote. We'll just be, like, in the car, and she'll just bust one of those out. But But yeah, so those are some vintage episodes for 13 o'clock.
Yeah, no, I think that was like pretty much like first season stuff.
Yeah, it was first season.
Yeah, at least for a haunting.
Yeah. So but that's like totally, it's one of the best episodes. I don't really find many series that I could rewatch an episode. And that's an episode that I could rewatch over again because it was so good.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of shows, like, you know, I'll be sitting there and I'll be watching them, and they're good, like, you know, crime-wise, but they're not cases that grip you and go, okay, I could watch that one again.
Yeah. Like, the one that terrifies me from, I think it's called Obsession, Dark Obsession, about the stalkers, people that have been stalked.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm totally ready for one. I think I could kick his stalker's ass. I'm just saying. I think I could win. I've watched enough of these shows. It's like, listen, go ahead. Come for me.
You live in a trailer. Like, I'm not gonna, okay, not a trailer, a mobile home. But I don't know.
I have an arsenal.
You have a husband that could protect you because he was in the Navy, but he was a cook.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do, John? Hit him with pots and pans?
Hey, you know what? Whatever.
They do have knives in the kitchen, dude.
I would hop out a window before I would actually confront someone.
Like, yeah, but like I mean that one episode that terrifies me the most in that series is also the one that I can rewatch over and over again because it's so intriguing. The one with the stalker who's the peeping Tom.
Oh yeah.
And he like literally stands outside her window recording her while she has friends over.
Oh yeah, and he licks the window.
And he licks the window and he's like, "I'm gonna come get you." And you're just like, "What the fuck?"
Like that. See, that's where, like, you know, my worst fear is standing anywhere and looking out the window and seeing a face staring back at me. It could be a friend, it could be somebody that I know, but if they're smiling and looking at me, my brain automatically does not recognize their face, and it says, this person's here to kill me. So my fight and flight response starts reacting.
Where are you gonna go, though? You gonna, like, go up to the second floor, lock yourself in the bathroom?
No, I lock myself in the bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Straight through the door?
Well, we got, you know. So yeah. That's where I'm going. Like, I'll lock myself in the closet.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have the key. If the lock is on the inside of the door, I'll lock the guest bedroom door and then get in the closet and lock that door.
No. I'd be the I once saw one where a woman, she was being stalked by her ex-husband that, like, at the time they were married when he started doing this, and he would drive by her house and just terrorize her, and he would just sit in his car literally in front of her driveway. So then she was like, you know what, I had to take the steps. So she got a license to carry a gun, started getting gun training, and every time he would drive down her street, she would go stand outside of her house with her gun out in full view,
yeah, I remember
loaded and trigger ready, and she would just stare him down until he got the point that, don't fuck with me, I will kill you. If I have to.
The thing is that I think that with a lot of stalking cases, and especially with this one here, if you handle it when it first happens and you shut it down so hard, like, and you put the balls on, like, you get in their face and you show them that you're crazy, they're going to back off.
Yeah.
But if you, like, you know, you placate them and you try and be nice about it, and you just go, oh, they're going to leave me alone if I don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they'll just get over it. No. They don't get over it. The more and more you let them, the more and more that the likely outcome is going to be you're going to die or you're going to get seriously hurt.
Yeah. And, like, so, I mean, that's just crazy. Like, all this, and you would think they, like, crazy shit like this doesn't happen anymore. I mean, this was the 80s. This was the heyday for crazy shit.
Like, if I know that in my kind of house, that no one could climb through the walls. But, like, you're looking at a Victorian house, like, you know, those were built differently. Like, you know, so I would assume that this stuff happens. Like, honestly, like, if you talk about, like, hauntings and stuff like that, I'm more likely to believe that there's animals in the wall than there is a haunting.
Yeah. Like, I just love watching those ghost shows. Like, I just saw one called Ghost Brothers, and it's some African American ghost hunters. Like, I've never seen a show like that before with, and they brought it up. They're like, why is there no black paranormal investigators? Well, here we are. And they are funny. They are so great. Like, but they take everything really seriously, whereas like ghost hunters, they're more like trying to debunk a situation where they're trying to more is to prove it.
Yeah. Well, what is that one show where it's like the three guys that go out?
Oh, Ghost Adventures, where the guy
that
just
is
like
so fake.
I know. He just like
I just sit there and I'm like, no, they did something, and that's why something's rolling down the stairs. Oh, because one of them pushed down the stairs. Like, I'm like,
it's scripted. It's so fake.
Yeah.
Like when you go in and you're just like, demons, I summon thee. I want to piss you off. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to be disrespectful as fuck.
And see, the thing is that, if we ever did, like, a actual ghost thing, which I think we should do, like, my whole thing is I want to go to Goatman Bridge. I want to go there. Just so I could be like, this shit ain't real. Nah.
Goatman, I'm on your bridge.
Yeah. Like, go to 100, like, I feel like we need to do that for an episode. Like,
Dennis would not be down for that. Your man would not be down for that. My husband would be like the skeptic.
This is when I'm saying that just the women and maybe your husband should go. Like we'll do like a broadcast. Like we'll do something like this, but we'll take like a recorder out with us and we just go sit out there with like a fire and like tell like ghost stories and like visit like a haunted place and be like, is this shit real or not?
Okay, well, we have been chit-chatting for long enough. We are currently at, like, a little over an hour. So we just wanted to, like, talk to you guys about a couple of other things, some housekeeping business here.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are women, we gotta talk about that housekeeping.
Yeah.
Right? So, just so you guys know, we have our Facebook page. We just hit 100 subscribers, and we're still climbing. So, we hit our first benchmark. My goal is to have at least 200 subscribers on Facebook by the end of the year. So we're looking pretty good. We've been doing this for 3 months. You didn't even think you were going to have 100 subscribers in as short of a period of time. And that is kudos to all of you for liking us. And I'm so impressed with my sister. I know that they're going to be doing like a live stream soon at some point. And she's got like a whole setup and you guys are going to love it. Yeah, so we're getting all that ready to go. We're gonna try to plan a live stream. It might happen before this airs, might happen after. So we're gonna see how that flows, how that works out. But we do have we would like to get some commentary from people. It's a little bit of engagement on everybody's part. So if anybody wants to leave us comments, please reach out to us on Facebook.
If you hate my voice, let me know. I can't change it, so screw you. But I'll be more than happy to take the comment.
We also have our Patreon, and we're still waiting for some patrons here. So far we really haven't posted anything on there because we don't have anybody to post to. So I'm a little sad. But maybe you guys can fix that, if you guys want to support your favorite podcast, and help us out, buy better equipment or whatever. We just invested some money in some new software and some new mics, which thank you, Johnny Potts, hubby of mine, for doing that for me and, really supporting my
bizarre and morbid fascination with true crime.
Exactly. No, me and John, that was like when we first started dating, we used to watch a lot of true crime shows together. Like it was kind of our thing. In fact, in our vows, my husband, because we would always be like, say, around our family and our friends, we would be like, oh, you know what? When I kill you, it's not going to be with a car. I promise you it's not going to be with a car. But you'll see it coming, kind of thing. And we would just be laying there on the couch and he would just say, yeah, hun, just so you know, I'm not going to stab you to death. It's too messy. I don't want to clean that up. Okay, thanks, babe. So there's a poisoning. Hey, babe, just so you know, hun, I'm not going to poison you. It'll be more painful than that. And we would just
I've been there for those conversations. I can contest to that they have like this witty banter between the two of them that is just so cute and endearing. It's like he doesn't care
what other people think.
And like, you know, they talk about it, but I think you guys used to watch a lot of ID Channel together.
We still do.
So that's a great connection that you two have.
Yeah, and in our wedding vows, I didn't have it in there, but my husband, I did my vows first, and then he did his, and he said, "I promise never to go through with the murder plots that we have placed on each other." And I just thought that was so sweet. I started crying.
Yeah. Well, he started, like, I was amazed that he started crying when you were walking down the aisle. I was I thought he was going to be one of those
Your man was, like, too tough. He was like...
Well, no, he cried earlier.
Yeah.
I think he cried because he was getting married.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband was like, I just saw my freedom flying out the window.
Wearing the world's tiniest handcuff, right?
Yep. Well, he lost his, and I bought him like a one of those rubber ones, and I said, that way I don't have to feel bad if you lose it.
Yeah,
and there's 3 of them there. But yeah, so that concludes everything I have on this episode, you know. So like, share, subscribe, check us out on any of your favorite podcast stations.
And please leave some comments so that we can, like, you know, interact with you on a much deeper level.
I know. I will respond. I work from home currently. Currently working from home.
And she needs some friends.
I need some friends. So, we're just going to close this out. Yeah. How about you do it with me?
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Stay sexy and don't get murdered.